With Guild Wars 2 just releasing its third expansion recently and planning for a Steam release as well, I thought it would be a good idea to create a video on how the new player experience is, and if Guild Wars 2 is the type of MMORPG that you would enjoy playing. Keep in mind that I will not go deep into raids, fractals, PvP and world vs world, as I have not touched these enough to form a good opinion on them yet. Alright, so let's start with the first and most important question. Is Guild Wars 2 the MMORPG that you would enjoy playing? This game does things a little bit differently compared to other MMORPGs. The most important thing you need to know is that there's no real and hardcore gear hunting in here, as the progression itself is horizontal, and that's a sentence that every Guild Wars 2 content creator must have said at least once in their life. It's pretty much explaining the game in a nutshell. For example, if you've started playing this game back in 2013, got to level 80 and geared your character up with some good old exotic gear, you're set. That gear is relevant even today, with only a tier above that has been added years ago, namely Ascended gear, which is not entirely heavens above stats beyond what you already have with your exotic gear. There's also the Legendary gear, which has the same stats as the Ascended one. The differences between them is that the legendaries can be easily swapped between characters that are able to use them, and you can also change their secondary stats at will. The gear you have in PvP matches also does not matter at all, except in World vs World, which is an open world territory based PvP. This right here is also the nexus, the center of what would make a person either enjoy Guild Wars 2 or not. There are many MMO players out there that prefer the vertical progression of your gear, of your overall power. While some are content with reaching a power ceiling, others prefer constantly getting stronger and stronger through new content or expansion releases. By knowing this beforehand, what to expect from a game with a power ceiling when it comes to your character, you may now also be able to draw conclusions on how both the early and endgame experiences could be. In this case, however, I believe that Guild Wars 2 as a game completely removes the idea of a mid-game experience, and you're left with the early game, which is getting to a max level to unlock every single piece of content out there, and getting to the end game, which in theory can be anything you like and does not have a real gate to keep you out of. So, let's see how the actual new player experience goes like. As with every MMORPG out there, you start out by creating your character and, in this case, a little backstory. After that, you're thrown in-game and straight to the action. The tutorial phase will take you around 5 to 15 minutes depending on the race you're starting with, and after that, you're free to explore. What you need to know about Guild Wars 2 right from the bat is that this game's main selling point is the freedom it equips you with. Once you're done with the tutorial, the road to level 80 can be walked on either by doing hearts, which are traditional quests with a few twists, exploration, zone dynamic events, collections, and overall map completion. You could even be extreme enough and level up just by gathering or resurrecting players, although that would take quite a long time. There are main quest storylines that you can follow, and they open up every 10 levels up until you get to the max level, which is where the base game storyline ends. After you reach the max level, you're free to choose which expansion or living world storyline you want to jump into. A cool feature that manages to keep the boringness away are the dynamic events that happen all over the world. These can be small little events that require you to do different actions to solve a problem or a huge badass world boss that you gotta take down. They don't necessarily reward you with treasures that no player has ever dreamed of, but they're usually spontaneous enough to create fun. Aside from that, achievements are also something that's sought off by players. A lot of collection achievements reward special skins or even mounts in some cases, as there's a couple of them that can only be acquired by completing their respective collections. That's something I still need to work towards although, but I always get sidetracked with other stuff. Since we're talking about the new player experience, let's take a look at how the in-game community is as well. While I was recording footage on a new character that I made, something popped up in the map chat. This player right here, Tulko Sparkpaw, was kind enough to throw a message out in the world where new players could request his assistance or friendship. This is actually a rather common occurrence as the community itself is pretty helpful due to the way the game is made. There's no singular or damage oriented loot drops in here as it's all shared. If I hit a mob and you hit a mob, we both shake hands and pick up the loot. Same goes with gathering materials. Now, I haven't really tried getting into the fractals and raids yet, which are pretty much instance fights that scale in difficulty depending on what you're joining, so I can't really talk about that. What I can say about them, however, is that they're really easy to get into from what I've seen, and if you're on the lookout for a group or even training, there seems to be loads of guilds and communities that offer just that, especially on Twitch, as there's a couple of streamers that do regular viewer training grounds. Next up, we have the cost of playing Guild Wars 2 and the overall monetization. The core game is free to play. The expansion and Living World episodes you will need to buy. So let's go through each of them and what they mean. If you're looking to start playing, I would highly recommend you to try the free-to-play core game first to get a feel on the gameplay itself and see if it's really something that you would enjoy playing. You can actually put pause on this video and jump in the game in less than 5 minutes by playing on the GeForce Now Cloud platform. The gameplay footage you've seen so far has been recorded through GeForce Now since my PC is pretty Anyways, the core free-to-play version lets you level up to the maximum. You can reach level 80 and adventure through the zones that were available at launch, which already provide a lot of content. You have some limitations when it comes to the chat, the character slots, bag slots, classes, and a few other things, but in general, it should not limit the new player experience by much. If you decide you like this game enough to upgrade, the model they're using is buy to play, meaning that once you buy the expansions, you own them forever and there's no subscription that you need to pay. You unlock almost everything, meaning that you don't get access to the Living World episodes as well, but we'll get there in just a sec. At the moment of me posting this video, the upgrades you'll need to buy are the Path of Fire and End of Dragons expansions, which should take you to around 50 euros. You can also buy them separately, but you'll end up paying a little bit more that way. ArenaNet does frequent sales on their expansions, so if you're not in a rush, you can wait for one, and I believe that soon there'll probably be package End of Dragons with the other expansions as well, so yeah, keep an eye on that. Now, I mentioned before that you unlock almost everything by upgrading your experience with the expansions. What I mean by that is that if you buy the expansions themselves, you don't unlock the Living World episodes as well. What is Living World though, you ask? You probably didn't ask yet, but I suppose you were going to eventually. Well, Living World episodes are basically content patches that come every few months or so. They usually contain a few main story missions, a brand new map, and sometimes even new systems. Living World episodes are free to obtain if you log in during their release window. If you don't, well, you can find them in the gem store and purchase them either by paying money or by farming gold and switching that gold into gems. You can do that. So, since we've mentioned it, the gem store. Does it host pay-to-win items? No, none. Convenience items? Yes, plenty. Basically, the gem store is full of outfits, mount skins, and general upgrades such as more bag slots, more bank slots, more remote vendors, the usual, you know. At first, you don't mind them, but eventually you will need them. So you either stack up on the gold and buy them away, or you can just swipe a card and get them that way. It's also worth mentioning that while you can exchange gold for gems, you can also exchange gems for gold. So if you were to whale it out, what can you buy from the auction house? Well, legendaries I guess, but I personally don't see a pay to win aspect here either, so you know, with the progression being horizontal and all. Now that we've talked about the cost and monetization as well, it's time to move on to the last topic of this video. Why don't people play this game, and also why is it boring for some? It's not a secret that a number of people view Guild Wars 2 as a dead game or a low populated one, and that's a pretty common misconception people have. But why is that? A lot of new players seem to get bored while they run around in Tyria trying to reach the max level, and ArenaNet has taken notice of it. They've recently posted an article where in one of the sections they write about their intentions of making changes to the new player experience with the goal of improving new player retention. So let's see, what does put off new players while they're leveling their character throughout the world? Could it be exactly this? Leveling throughout the world? A lot of MMORPGs out there have select ways you can level up through, and most of them include following main storyline quests as well as zone quests with a little bit of a mob grinding along the way. In here, pretty much every action gives you experience and you're not being handheld on what to do next for your levels. You're free to choose your own path however you want. That level of freedom, while great, can be quite overwhelming when you're already accustomed to the old ways, so to speak. Aside from that, new players might also get tired of walking and seeing other people flying around with their cool mounts, so they'll go thinking, why don't I just use that boost I have from when I bought the game earlier and unlock a mount as well? That way I'd progress faster. So they go and log out back to the character screen, they create a new character and boost it up to level 80. Then they start a Path of Fire expansion so they can get a raptor, and then it happens. They taste how things are when they reach max level and think, maybe I'll just play the game boosted up like this and just catch up on things as I go, no need to level up again. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that the chain of events that start with the new player seeing mounts, gliders and all that good stuff and already having a level 80 boost from the game upgrade to tempt them into doing it is what also leads to a probable, I'm getting bored. Another reason I believe may contribute to the number of players getting confused and probably disappointed is the whole mess with the Living World episodes. A new player might come in, play the game a bit and then buy the expansions as well, thinking, now I'll get access to everything, that's cool. But then they notice that between the expansion stories, a few categories also pop up called Living World Seasons, so they wonder what the hell those are. Then they find out they gotta buy those as well besides the expansions, so that's a bit weird. I believe ArenaNet needs to make things easier for new players to understand how to get access to the whole content. They could just include the episodes themselves while buying the expansion packs, or showcase them on their website as well with some information on what they are and why they would be great to have. I don't have a perfect solution for this one, as I don't have enough stats about the player base to create one, which is why I hope they'll take this issue into consideration as well while making changes to the new player experience. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of other possible major issues with the game as well, but the way I view it, these are the main points that need to be addressed. After that, the rest can easily follow. So yeah, these are my thoughts on Guild Wars 2 and how the experience can be for new players. If you're a potential newcomer to the game and you've watched this to the end, I hope you found this video insightful enough. If you're already playing this game, I'm also curious what you think about the new player experience in Guild Wars 2 and if you think it needs changes. So I welcome you all to the comment section with your thoughts as well. My name is Cloaked, like, subscribe and I'll see you around.